What if the person you hate the most is the only one your body recognizes as home? Sometimes the heart waits in silence for years, and this story shows that the wait can be rewarded. Buenos Aires, winter of 1968. The lights of the Salon Marabu burned hot above a polished wooden floor, and Mateo Salvador Aguirre adjusted his black tie with hands that refused to tremble. He was 29 years old, the rising star of the confiteria ideal, the son of a tailor from San Telmo who had clawed his way into the most expensive ballrooms of the city. Across the room, Catalina Renata Vidal lifted her chin and pretended not to see him. She was 27, the daughter of a respected violinist from Recoleta, a tango instructor at the Teatro Colón Academy, and the only woman in the city who had ever beaten Mateo in a national competition. They had not spoken a civil word in 3 years. Tonight, the Gran Premio Nacional would be decided, and only one of them would carry the trophy home. The orchestra began to tune. Mateo took the floor with his partner, a slim blonde named Inés, and Catalina stepped forward with her partner Rodrigo, a tall man with oiled hair and a careful smile. The bandoneon cried out the first notes of Adios Nanino, and the dancers moved. Mateo led Inés through the figures with technical precision, but his eyes drifted against his will toward the woman in the red dress on the other side of the floor. Catalina felt the weight of his stare like a hand on her back. She closed her eyes for 1 second, just one, and imagined it was Mateo holding her instead of Rodrigo. Her body answered. Her steps grew lighter, sharper, alive. The audience leaned forward without knowing why. When the music ended, the judges whispered. The trophy went to Catalina by a single point. Mateo walked off the stage without looking at her, and Catalina, holding the silver cup, felt nothing close to victory. That night, in the small dressing room behind the salon, she sat in front of the mirror and admitted a secret she had been hiding from herself for years. She danced best when she pretended he was her partner. And somewhere in another corner of the same building, Mateo was punching the wall of his dressing room, because he had just realized the same thing about her. The next week, a letter arrived at the academy. The organizers of the Festival Internacional de Tango, to be held in 3 months, had selected 6 dancers from Argentina to represent the country. Mateo and Catalina were both on the list. But there was a complication. The committee, tired of the public feud between the 2 stars, had made a decision that shook the tango community. Mateo and Catalina would be forced to dance together as partners, in a single choreography, or neither of them would go. Catalina read the letter twice and laughed without joy. Mateo read it and lit a cigarette he did not finish. They met for the first rehearsal in a cold studio on Avenida Corrientes. The mirrors were old, the floor scratched, and the silence between them was heavier than the bandoneon case in the corner. Catalina spoke first. She said they would do this for the country, not for each other. Mateo agreed without looking at her. They placed their hands in the closed embrace, and the moment her cheek almost touched his, both of them stopped breathing. The music started. They danced badly. Stiff, mechanical. 2 strangers pretending to be one. The teacher, an old maestro named Don Heriberto, watched from his chair and shook his head. He told them to come back tomorrow and forget everything they thought they knew. The rehearsals continued for weeks. Slowly, something shifted. Mateo learned that Catalina hummed under her breath when she was nervous. Catalina learned that Mateo always arrived 10 minutes early and drank his coffee black. They began to talk, first about steps, then about music, then about the small things people only share when they have stopped being afraid. One rainy afternoon, Catalina arrived at the studio soaked from the storm, and Mateo handed her his jacket without a word. She wore it for the rest of the rehearsal. That night she did not return it. The wound each of them carried began to surface. Matteo confessed, in a quiet voice between songs, that his father had died believing his son was wasting his life on dance. He danced to prove the old man wrong, and every trophy felt empty because the only person whose approval he wanted was buried in Chacarita. Catalina, in turn, told him about her mother, a famous dancer who had abandoned the family when Catalina was 9, leaving only a pair of red shoes and a note. Catalina danced because it was the only language her mother had left her, and she feared that if she ever loved someone the way her mother had loved the stage, she would also disappear. They were standing close when she said it. Matteo did not move. He only whispered that he would never let her disappear. Then came the revelation that changed everything. One evening, Don Heriberto called them to his small apartment above the studio. He was an old man, kind and tired, and he poured them 2 glasses of red wine. He told them he had a confession that had weighed on him for years. 3 years earlier, at the competition where their rivalry had begun, the one where Matteo had publicly accused Catalina of cheating and she had slapped him in front of the cameras, the truth had been different from what either of them believed. The judges had been bribed that night, but not by Catalina. They had been bribed by a wealthy patron who wanted Matteo to lose, a man with a private grudge against Matteo's father. Catalina had won fairly. Matteo had been told a lie by a friend who wanted to protect him from the patron. And Catalina, on her side, had been told that Matteo was the one who had paid the judges to humiliate her by losing on purpose. Both of them had been pawns in a fight that had nothing to do with them. Matteo set down his glass. Catalina covered her mouth. 3 years of hatred dissolved in a single minute, and underneath it, raw and waiting, was everything they had refused to feel. They walked home together in silence through the wet streets of San Telmo. At her door, Matteo finally kissed her, and Catalina kissed him back as if she had been starving for years. But happiness in Buenos Aires that winter was a fragile thing. The wealthy patron, still alive and still bitter, learned of their partnership and their growing romance. He visited Catalina at the academy and offered her a choice. He would fund her career for the rest of her life, send her to Paris, give her everything her mother had failed to give her on one condition. She would publicly humiliate Matteo at the festival, dance the choreography alone, and let him be disqualified. If she refused, he would use his influence to destroy her father's reputation as a violinist, a reputation built over 40 years. Catalina did not sleep that night. She thought of her father, frail and proud, sitting in his armchair listening to old recordings. She thought of Matteo, who had finally let her see the boy beneath the trophies. The next morning, she told Matteo she could not dance with him at the festival. She did not explain. She only said it was over, that she had been confused, that the rivalry was easier than the love. Matteo stared at her for a long moment. Then he left without arguing. He understood in some quiet corner of himself that something was wrong, but his old wound, the fear of being abandoned by people who claimed to love him, kept him from chasing her. For 2 weeks they did not speak. The festival was 5 days away. Matteo drank too much and danced too little. Catalina rehearsed alone and cried in the bathroom of the academy. Then, on the 3rd day, her father knocked on her bedroom door. He sat on the edge of her bed, took her hand, and told her he had heard everything. Don Heriberto had told him. He said his reputation was his own to defend, and that no daughter of his would trade her heart for his name. He told her to go find the boy. Catalina ran through the streets of Buenos Aires that night in a thin coat, her hair wet from the rain, until she reached the small apartment where Matteo lived above a bakery. She knocked until he opened. She told him everything. The patron, the threat, the lie she had told to protect her father. She told him she was terrified, that she still feared becoming her mother, but that she feared losing him more. Matteo listened. Then he pulled her inside and held her for a long time without speaking. The festival arrived. The hall was full, the cameras were ready, and the patrons sat in the front row with a thin smile. Matteo and Catalina took the floor together. They wore black and red, and when the bandoneon began to play, they did not dance for the judges or the cameras or the patron. They danced for each other, for the 3 years they had wasted, for the fathers and mothers who had shaped them, for the wound and the healing. The audience rose to its feet before the song ended. They won the festival. The patron left the hall in silence, and his influence, built on intimidation, began to crumble in the weeks that followed when other dancers, inspired by their courage, came forward with their own stories. Matteo and Catalina married the following spring in a small ceremony in San Telmo. They opened a tango academy together on Calle Defensa, a place with warm light and a scratched wooden floor, where they taught young dancers that the embrace was not a technique but a confession. Catalina's father played the violin at their wedding, and Matteo, dancing with his wife under the lanterns, finally understood that his own father, wherever he was, would have been proud after all. They danced every night for the rest of their lives, and they never again needed to imagine anyone else.
Did you enjoy today's story? Stay with me for just a moment. Let me know in the comments, which city are you watching from? Did this message touch you? And if you have ideas for future stories, feel free to share them. Your suggestion could become our next video. Leave a like if this message meant something to you. Subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. If you think someone else would appreciate this message, please share it. And if you'd like to support the channel, take a look at the links in the description. Some are affiliate links, which help us at no extra cost to you. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.